Hello and welcome to another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Our program today is called Asymmetrically Loaded Exercises. And this topic is a little bit different than anything we've discussed before on Personal Health and Fitness. I had an opportunity to, over the summer to go see a gentleman by the name of Stuart McGill in Las Vegas at a conference that I attended. And Dr. McGill actually talked about how to do different types of exercises using, say, one dumbbell or one barbell or different loads using one side of the body. For example, if you had to pick up a dumbbell with one hand or a suitcase with one hand or a jug of milk with one hand, your body has to work a little bit differently. It's going to recruit different muscles in a different way versus if you had to carry something symmetrically, say both hands at the same time. So we're going to talk about a variety of different exercises that are going to stress your body in a different way and hopefully teach you a few new things. So I've got a couple of helpers today, and Justin Knadler is going to help me with the first exercise. I'm going to talk about a lot of these exercises and what we're doing and what we're trying to, in terms of form, mechanics, muscle recruitments, and the benefits associated with all of these exercises. Now the first exercise we're going to demonstrate today is called the Suitcase Deadlift. So if anybody has ever performed a deadlift, let me demonstrate real quick here, Justin. You know that you're going to pick up a barbell, keeping your head straight, and you're going to pull it right up your thighs. All right? The big house has to work a lot, i.e. your butt muscles, lower back muscles, abdominals, shoulders. It's really a total body exercise. You're symmetrically loading your entire body when you have to pick up a barbell the way I just demonstrated. But now we're going to asymmetrically load your body. So that means that one side of your body, you're going to approach the bar, head straight, and lift straight up. So the benefit to doing it this way is that, one, your hips have to work a lot harder, but it's a lot more demanding to your abdominals, your core musculature. And when I say core, I mean your butt, your abdominals, and your lower back. So it's a little bit different way to train, a lot more interesting to me anyway. If you're doing conventional exercises, try some of these asymmetrically loaded exercises if you want a new and different challenge. Okay? Let's go ahead and demonstrate this one. So Justin's going to approach the bar. He's going to stand to the side. If you've ever had to pick up a suitcase, you know what I'm talking about. So you're essentially going to simulate that action. So you're going to have to really focus on stabilizing the bar, because this bar is 7 feet long. It's a very long lever. So the bar wants to teeter up and down. So you really have to focus on having a nice strong grip. Okay, go ahead and relax, Justin. And now I want you to turn around and face me. Turn around and face me and just relax for a minute. One of the things that you have to be aware of if you're going to attempt this exercise, go ahead and simulate it. So you're going to want to squat. You want to make sure that your hips are square. All right? Don't let your hips jut out to the right or the left as you attempt to pick it up, because your hips aren't going to be firing properly if you allow your hips to translate to the right or to the left. The other thing that's going to happen is that your opposing obliques, say on Justin's right side, he's picking it up with his left hand, have to really fire hard. And now Dr. McGill, who's out of the University of Toronto, talked about how the muscle fiber recruitment, all these different muscles in your core, have to really work in kind of like a symphony together in harmony to allow you to do this. So a lot more beneficial to your core muscles compared to even doing something like an abdominal crunch, all right, on the floor, or a Swiss ball crunch on a ball. Dr. McGill talked about how he didn't really appreciate the damage those types of exercises can do to your spine, specifically to your intervertebral disc, your disc that are between each vertebrae. All right, it's kind of like a little jelly-like substance that helps to protect your spine. Those wear over time, especially with the repetitive trunk flexion by doing excessive abdominal sit-ups. But with exercises where you're asymmetrically loaded, you really can stress your abdominals more effectively, get a lot more bang for your buck, and save your back. Okay? Thanks for demonstrating that suitcase deadlift. So the rep scheme on an exercise like this, you want to keep it relatively low, maybe 5 reps, 6 reps max. Okay, but remember the tips: keeping your hips square, shoulders square, head pointed straight ahead. Okay, the next exercise we're going to demonstrate, Eric's going to come on and demonstrate a dumbbell suitcase. You want to grab any old dumbbell, doesn't matter. Okay, so go ahead and set the dumbbell on the ground. This exercise is also a suitcase type movement because you're going to start with the weight to the side of your body. Eric's going to use a dumbbell. He's going to reach across his body with his left hand, squat down, pick it up, and rotate and bring it to the other side of his hip and set it down. He's just going to go back and forth for a set number of repetitions, or you can do this for a set amount of time if you'd like. Again, depending on your level of fitness is going to dictate how heavy of a weight you're using. You could certainly use a kettlebell if you wanted, or a sandbag. That's acceptable as well. Let's go ahead and turn to the side. So you can see in terms of abdominal and hip benefits by rotating your body from side to side and bringing across your body, your obliques, your hips, your stabilizers through your spine have to work to allow you to do this properly. But the key here on doing this exercise is making sure that you really drive your hips back as you go down to retrieve the dumbbell and pick it up. So with each repetition, you're going to set the weight down and then stand up and then reach across with the opposite side, grab it, and set it down and continue. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Eric. And that is called a suitcase or a dumbbell suitcase. But the next exercise we're going to demonstrate is a barbell suitcase, isometric hold. Now this is one of my favorite new exercises for your abdominals. Similar to the suitcase where you simply pick it up and set it down, the barbell suitcase, you're going to isometrically hold this. You can also use a dumbbell, but I really prefer a barbell because it's a lot more demanding in terms of balance challenge. And so Justin here, we have 95 pounds on this bar, total weight. He is having to hold the weight and keep his body square. And if you can notice, go ahead and set it down, Justin. Let's move the bar over to the center of the room, and I want you to turn around again. And again, as you pick up the barbell, you want to make sure that your hips are square, but I want to talk about what you have to maintain in terms of form. So go ahead and pick it up, head straight. Justin has his shoulder square and his hip square, and his hand is slightly displaced from his hip. His knuckles aren't touching the side of his hip, but his abs are firing like crazy to allow him to hold this position. I can see him actually shaking. Go ahead and set it down, Justin. So most people, if you're an athlete or you're relatively strong, you're going to have to be relatively strong to do this exercise. You're going to feel so much in your opposing abdominals, internal, external obliques. Very challenging exercise. Now, if you're not that strong, try a barbell, just a barbell loaded, which is 45 pounds. You don't have to load it up with a lot of weight. You could also use a body bar. Body bars come in all different weights. They're basically a long bar, kind of like a barbell, except they're assigned a particular weight, say 10 pounds or 15 or 20 or 25. You can try that too, so you don't have to use a heavy barbell loaded with a lot of weight. Figure out how strong you are and just tweak it. Okay, the next exercise we're going to demonstrate is a single arm farmer walk. In terms of doing that last exercise, the isometric hold, good rule of thumb is if you can hold it for 20 or 30 seconds, then maybe try a little bit more weight until you can no longer hold it for 20 seconds. It really develops grip strength as well, not just abdominal strength and core strength. Okay, the single arm farmer walk. Go ahead, Eric. You're going to grab a dumbbell, and this exercise is a fun one because you're basically, you've heard of farmers carry a lot of, have to do a lot of manual labor, carrying buckets around. We call this a single arm farmer walk. You can certainly walk with 2 dumbbells in your hand, but again, the program today is asymmetrically loaded exercises. So to asymmetrically load one side of your body, you have to hold only one apparatus. So he's just holding a dumbbell. And typically we do this exercise for time. And you're just going to walk around. Walk around. You can walk in a straight line. You can walk in circles. You can walk backwards. Doesn't really matter. Just walk. The key here is to keep your shoulders square and your hips square. This is not right where you see this going on and you're trying to walk, all right? That's incorrect. You want to keep your shoulders square to the direction you're walking or the direction you're moving. Again, typically we do this for a set amount of time. Okay, Eric, You want to rack it? Very good. So typically we want to do that for a set amount of time with the right hand, set amount of time for the left hand. All right? Metabolically, very demanding. A lot of calories are burned, especially the heavier the weight you use, obviously the more of a challenge. Big time grip strength as well, not just abdominals and hips, but gripping strength definitely improves that as well. Okay, the next exercise we're going to demonstrate is a single arm dumbbell squat. So we're going to kind of get into a little bit more traditional type exercises now. Everybody's done a body weight squat or a barbell squat or even dumbbell squats for that matter. But we like to do, again, when we're having somebody, we're training somebody by incorporating some of these asymmetrically loaded exercises. This is a little bit different twist on the conventional squat. We'll hold a single dumbbell up at your shoulder level. You can even hold it overhead if you want. But typically, we like to do this either overhead or with a dumbbell at shoulder level. Go ahead and turn to the side. It makes it that much more challenging when you're holding just one dumbbell because your body wants to translate and do this. And you have to fight to keep everything square as you squat and then stand up. The width of your stance is going to depend on how much range of motion you have in your hips. Some people need to assume a wider stance, what I call a sumo stance, all right? And that's fine. If this feels more comfortable for you to do it this way with a wider stance, then by all means assume a wider stance. If you feel more comfortable with a slightly narrow stance and your hips allow you to go into, where you flex your knees to 90 degrees, great. So figure out which one of those individuals you happen to be in terms of flexibility in your hips. Okay, great. Thank you, sir. In terms of rep patterns, same number of rep scheme depending on if you're working on a hypertrophy phase. You want to keep your reps a little bit higher, 8 to 15. If you're working on more of a strength phase, and keep your reps around 6 range. If you're working more power, then keep your reps relatively low, anywhere in the 2 to 3 range. So you can really load your body up. If you grabbed a 100-pound dumbbell and tried that exercise and you think you're strong enough, then go for it. All right, next exercise we're going to demonstrate is the single arm dumbbell floor press. Everybody's done a bench press or a dumbbell bench press, either incline or on a flat bench. We like to do some of our abdominal / chest exercises on the floor. So go ahead and lie on your back on the floor. This floor press is a great exercise for your abdominals because you're asymmetrically loaded. Your abdominals really have to fire hard. Every one of these exercises recruits all of your abdominal muscles when you're performing the movements. So this exercise is no different. You're going to lie on your back. One of the reasons why I like this exercise, it really protects the integrity of the shoulder joint as well. So if you are an individual that has, say, tight joint capsule or a history of shoulder impingement problems, then give this exercise a shot because it allows you to perform the exercise safely and limit your range of motion by not allowing your elbow to dip down below the level of your shoulder, which is typically much more safe. So Eric is lowering the weight down to the ground just like if he were on his back using 2 hands doing a flat dumbbell bench press, but he's just doing it 1 arm at a time. I like to instruct people, cue people to position their feet flat on the ground when they're performing this exercise. And Eric, you feel this quite a bit in your abdominals too? Yep. Okay. So depending on your range of motion or in your shoulder joint, some people may need to keep their elbow closer to their sides. Some people, if they have nice healthy shoulders, can keep their elbow back. So you need to play with the position of your elbow depending on, again, the health of your shoulders. Very good, thank you. So you would perform that exercise just as you would using 2 dumbbells on a bench, but you're using 1 dumbbell, all right? Okay, next exercise, we're going to perform essentially the same movement that we did on the floor, but now we're going to use a Swiss ball. So a Swiss ball, again, is an unstable tool that we use, and this is definitely much more challenging than on the floor. So you want to keep your hips elevated when you're lying on your upper back on a Swiss ball. All right, his head is supported by the ball as well. And Justin's going to lower the dumbbell down to roughly just a little bit above chest level. So he keeps his elbow, he's going to flex it to about 90 degrees, and then he's going to press. But his hips have to fire, his abdominals have to fire. Obviously his chest and tricep muscles, shoulder muscles are working. But this exercise is actually much harder than it looks. Justin makes it look easy because he's a pretty fit guy. And then you're going to press straight up. So you can do a press on the Swiss ball, a single arm. You can also do a single arm, what's called dumbbell fly. Now this is much more challenging. If you ever have performed a fly on a bench where you're opening your arms up and bringing them up, you get a little bit of ab action. But this exercise, you get killer ab action. Especially as you lower the dumbbell down, the longer the lever here, the greater the forces the core to maintain stability on the Swiss ball. So his glutes are firing, his abdominals are firing like crazy, and obviously his chest is too. Is that an easy or hard one for you?
No, it's difficult.
He says that's a difficult one, and that's a challenge. Again, rep scheme on any of these exercises, same as any other conventional exercise you're performing. You can kind of manipulate the reps, the sets, rest intervals, the tempo of all these movements based on your level of fitness and what your goals are. So we're not going to get into that because it's so varied for each individual. Okay, the next exercise we're going to demonstrate is the Javelin Press. And this is a really challenging exercise, especially with the barbell. You need a barbell for this particular exercise. Again, you could also use a body bar because body bars come in a lot less weight. Olympic weight bars, Olympic bars always weigh 45 pounds approximately. So for this exercise, the Javelin Press, you're going to get into a split stance position. Now if you're going to hold the barbell in your right hand, your right foot should be behind you, your left foot should be forward, okay? So all your body weight is really, you're going to drive down with that forward heel on the ground, all right? That's going to activate your glutes and your hamstrings. Trailing heel, Justin's making this a little bit more challenging because he has this trailing heel off the ground. You can also perform this exercise with your trailing heel on the ground, but if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, get into a semi-squat position, trailing heel off the ground, jam that forward heel into the ground, okay? So you want to make sure you balance the bar right in the middle, otherwise it's going to teeter down, you're going to lose control. And you're simply going to press up, just like you would if you're going to do a dumbbell press. But again, because you're asymmetrically loaded, the abdominals really have to cook here. The hips really have to stabilize the body. The paraspinal muscles are really working hard. And this is a pretty challenging exercise. So now he's going to give you a different position here. Kind of show you from a side view. You can see the position of his legs. He's got his head nice and straight, looking straight ahead. If you've never tried this exercise, this is a challenging one. This is a tough one. A lot more core action than anyone would ever guess. That's good, Justin. Again, depending on your strength levels, it's going to dictate how much weight you have to use for that particular exercise. But typically, we don't have the people that we have performing that exercise do any more than roughly 6 repetitions for each side. All right, the next exercise we're going to demonstrate is called a single leg calf hop. Come on out here, Eric. Now, Eric has a dumbbell in his hand. You don't have to have a dumbbell in your hand. Some of these exercises you can perform, you can still load your body in such a way where you don't have to add an external load, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, medicine ball, sandbag, etc. But if you want to challenge yourself, you can certainly use a dumbbell for this exercise. If you're working your calves, if you've done any calf exercises before, usually you're doing seated calf raises, standing calf raises, maybe some single leg standing calf raises, maybe some donkey calf raises. There are a variety of calf raise machines, but typically those exercises don't really incorporate the hip or the core into them. So if you want a little bit more kind of a different flavor, a different approach, you can certainly try this exercise. So typically what we do is we do this for time. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. Eric is actually holding the dumbbell with his left hand and hopping on his right foot. Again, typically for a set amount of time. Go ahead and turn around, Eric. So his hip is also really benefiting from this exercise too because of the bounding. And again, you need to focus on keeping the shoulders square, the hips square to the direction you're facing, which is, again, really going to incorporate the hip musculature into the mix. You can also do what's called, you can load the same side too. So if you want to hop on your left foot and hold the dumbbell on your left side, you can do that. If you want to hold it in your right hand, you can kind of play with this exercise. Again, a very different exercise, not just for the calf, but also for the hip and the core musculature as well. Okay, that's good, Eric. Good. And when performing that particular exercise, doing a calf hop, you don't have to hold a dumbbell if you're not strong. A lot of people are very weak in their calves. You can simply just hop up and down with one foot. You don't have to load your body. Okay, awesome. All right, next exercise we're going to talk about is a single arm overhead dumbbell walking lunge. We're going to demonstrate it with both a kettlebell and a dumbbell. Let's demonstrate the regular conventional walking lunge, okay, before we even show them how to do this one. So a lot of people have done this walking lunge pattern, all right? Justin's kind of lifting his knees high. You don't even have to do that. You can just stride forward if you want. Let's go from the side. This is a pretty common, typical lunge pattern that a lot of people do in health clubs or at home or wherever for that matter. Nothing wrong with this exercise. Great exercise. Great for the hamstrings, glutes, quads. That's good. But if you want to challenge yourself, the show today as asymmetrically loaded exercises in case you're just tuning in. And the reason that I like this exercise is because it definitely makes the walking lunge much more challenging. Again, you get to asymmetrically load your body, so a lot more abdominal play is going to happen. So you're going to start with the dumbbell or the kettlebell. Justin's going to hold the kettlebell bottom up, much more challenging versus if you were to hold it like this. All right, the kettlebell bottom up, you have to use a lot more grip strength. Your shoulder stabilizers have to work a lot harder. Okay, go ahead. So you're going to do the same walking lunge pattern that he just demonstrated, except you have to balance this weight above your shoulder and maintain, again, square shoulders, square hips. So the abdominals really come into play to stabilize that position, that form, that biomechanical form he has to maintain. And typically we'll do this for a set number of repetitions or a set amount of time. And usually we like to kind of switch things up. If he does this exercise for 30 seconds with his left arm over his head, then he's going to switch and do 30 seconds with the kettlebell or dumbbell for his right side. Now he's going to demonstrate with the dumbbell, same thing, except it's a lot easier to hold on to. You don't have the unstable play with the kettlebell over your head, having to constantly fight to keep the kettlebell from rolling down your wrist or dropping it for that matter. So I would definitely start with a dumbbell first if I were doing a single arm overhead dumbbell walking lunge before I would do the single arm kettlebell walking lunge. A lot more challenge. You okay?
Good.
All right, let's go ahead. We've got another exercise. We're going to demonstrate the dumbbell split snatch and the kettlebell split snatch. So Eric's going to come out now and he's going to demonstrate with, let's go ahead and demonstrate with dumbbell first, okay? We work with a lot of baseball players here and softball players here at Body Symmetry and have for a number of years. So we like this exercise. This is something that I've never seen anywhere else, so we kind of figured out one day, well, this makes a lot of sense, so let's try it. And we liked it. The trainers usually try a lot of our new exercises that we try to come up with first, and then we test it on our clients that we work with. And we've gotten a lot of good results, so we really enjoy this exercise. So this is a little bit different. Let me demonstrate real quick, Eric, a snatch. So with the dumbbell, most people have seen maybe a barbell snatch. Well, this is a dumbbell snatch where you bring the dumbbell up over your head. You're going to drop it down, and in one smooth motion, bring it up over your head. Kind of a rapid, vicious pull pattern. For this one, though, we're going to actually essentially do the same thing for the first phase of the exercise, but we're actually going to go into what's called a split landing, okay? So Eric's going to drop it down between his legs, and then he's going to, let's freeze it at the bottom. Let me talk about it just for a second. So he's going to freeze that position here, and if you think about a pitcher or a throwing athlete, an overhead athlete, tennis player, volleyball player, a lot of quarterbacks obviously, they have to get into this position where they're going to execute their move. All right, this is simply simulating that action. Okay, go ahead and stand up. Let's do it again. Let's turn to the side actually. So check Eric out from the side. He's going to hold it and then he's going to set up. Go ahead and go regular speed now. So usually we ask the people that we have perform this exercise, maybe hold it for a split count. They get into that lunge pattern and then stand up, and they'll do it again. You can either do this for a set amount of time or for a set number of reps. Again, if you're in a power phase, then obviously your reps are going to be relatively low, and the load you're using, the external resistance, the weight you're using is going to be higher. Okay, thank you, Eric. So you can try it with the dumbbell. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, try it with the kettlebell. Kettlebell a lot more challenging. The shoulder stabilizers have to work a lot more here. And Justin's got a nice landing, very forceful. You hear that boom with his feet. Awesome. But again, because the kettlebell's unstable, you see at the top his hand's kind of doing one of these numbers. That's because the shoulder stabilizers have to work harder. But again, great for the core, great for the hips. Get a big overall, total big bang for your body. This is what I call a high dollar exercise because you have so many things that are being recruited. So the benefits are huge. The metabolic demands are huge. So a lot of energy being consumed here performing this exercise. A lot of calories being burned. Don't just have to walk on a treadmill. You can do some of these explosive type, asymmetrically loaded exercises if you want to really recruit some, burn some calories, recruit a lot of different muscles into play. But this is, again, a little bit of a different program today, but I wanted to share some of the things that, again, I discovered in Las Vegas this summer with Dr. McGill's presentation. I really enjoyed it, learned a lot. So hopefully you learned something too. Thanks again for joining me on another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Eric. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Marshak. Hey, Quinn and Riley.